Dear friends, as we're now approaching the season of Advent, this is another heart sharing on a theme that may hit a lot of chords with some families, particularly around the little ones, the little children, who will now be bombarded by the adverts on television of all the wonderful toys that one can get for one's child. And learning to say no may not be well received by that child. But in this commercially driven culture of ours, the media plays quite an important part in deceiving our young children, to giving them this egocentric, I must have, I will get, and I will do anything I can within my power to have what I want when I want it, regardless. But this is a time that is particularly difficult for those who are on low budgets, who are in the poverty trap, single parent families. How do they cope with the pressures being exerted upon them by their children? So I think this time parents need to be strong, and they need to learn to say no. And more importantly, they need to mean no. I know from my own experience coming from a large family, I've looked at some of my brothers and sisters, now grandparents, how they spoiled their children over the years. And when I used to say to them, why do you buy them so many things? It's only because we had to do without as children. I said, but we never did without. We always had a table of food. We had a warm bed. Yes, maybe we had one toy and a sock on the fireplace with an apple and orange and probably some boiled sweets. But the one thing we had then, which seems to be lacking today, is we had respect. And we had a sense of belonging. There was a sense of family. And we were appreciated in our own way. And we daredn't start demanding, but there again, we didn't have the distractions of TV. But today, when I look at some of the young children, when I see the mountain of toys they get, and yet I ask myself, do they need them? And they're not cheap. They're quite expensive. So I know this Christmas, many young families with 2, 3 and 4 children are going to be really stretched to be able to afford the whims and fancies of their children. So I would like to gear this to the parents and say it is important to say no, but it's important to come from love and sit the children down and explain to them the value that things must have. And of course, if they've got the pocket money, then by all means let them use their pocket money. But I was drawn to a reading in the Gospel of Luke where Jesus blesses little children. And he says, some people brought their babies to Jesus for him to place his hands upon them. The disciples saw them and scolded them for doing so. But Jesus called the children to him and said, let the children come to me and do not stop them, because the kingdom of God belongs to such as these. Remember this, he says, whoever does not receive the kingdom of God like a little child will never enter it. So Advent is about becoming childlike, not childish. And however well parents may mean to do their children good and right and spoil them, what we're doing is we're actually empowering them to have no self-respect and no value. And I feel today the challenge is great to try and nurture a sense of family and to try and break away from this hedonistic type society that we're living in, where everything is focused on I must have and I will get. Even the adverts for adults, when we see the likes of Jane Fonda applying all this so-called makeup on her mush and saying, it's because I'm worth it. As a child of God, we are worth more than this. And yes, it takes a lot of courage to step into one's power and say no. And my prayer for you as parents is that you will have the courage to say no, but in a loving way. And come as the child yourself. Come as that helpless child to your Father, Mother, God, and explain it as it is. If you're struggling, then you know that your needs will be met, not your wants. But if you are in need of shelter and you ask, it will be given. If you need food on the table to feed your little ones, if you ask, it will be given. Okay, it may not be gift wrapped like Marks and Spencer's do, but it will be nourishing food and it will be provided. And I feel that this Advent, this spiritual preparation for the coming of light, the light of God in His Son, it's not about materialism, because if it was, then He would have been born in a palace with servants, dressed in fine clothes. His palace was a stable, and that stable is to show us that there's more to life than material things. And materialism does not bring happiness. You know that, and I know that. But when you're surrounded in a society where everyone copies everyone, or because the neighbours at number 3 have new blinds, we must have new blinds. Or the neighbours in 22, they've had a new car, we must have a new car. There's a sense of greed and envy. But Advent is not about being envious. It's about nurturing compassion. It's about nurturing family values. And it's about sharing love. And a lot of the children today who are given too much, probably what they're looking for really is love. And I know from my own experience as the eldest son of a large family, sometimes my brothers and sisters overcompensated at Christmas. Yeah, because they were trying to keep down so many jobs to pay their bills that they felt guilty for neglecting their children by having babysitters or putting them in a nursery. I think in this Christmas, I feel there's got to be a sense of honesty and truth. And in this global recession, the plus signs of the recession is that it will empower many parents not to get into debt, but to say to their children, I cannot give you the material things you're looking for, advertised and promoted on the TV box, but what I can give you is my love. And I guess the child within will embrace the child within your child. And that Advent will be more than a time of hoarding and getting into debt. It will be a time of preparing your limited reserves and become more spiritually in tune with your higher self, with the God of abundance. And remember, the God of abundance does provide. He provides your needs, not your wants. Have a beautiful Christmas, but more importantly, enjoy the preparation of Advent. Namaste.